Hey, my name is April, and I'm the peaceful wife. You know, there's so many different women, different issues, different personalities, different backgrounds. We all have our own way of looking at things based on our culture, our experiences, our history, our understanding at the time. And I wish that I could personalize all of my messages for each woman based on her paradigm and her worldview and what's going on in her life right now. But I can't do that. So my prayer is that God will speak to each of you his words, and that anything that is not of him you might forget, but that everything that is from him, that you might cling to and that you might grow. Today I want to talk about trust a little bit more. We sometimes tend to go to extremes, and both of these extremes are unhealthy. Sometimes we don't trust our husbands when actually we could and should trust them, and other times we do trust them when maybe we shouldn't. Well, how do you know when you can trust your husband and when you can't? First of all, our trust is always in God. We trust in his sovereignty. We trust that he will work all things for good for those who love him and are called according to his purposes in Romans 8:28 through 29. So he is after our ultimate good, and he is able to work through every circumstance in our lives for his glory, for our ultimate good, to make us more like Christ. There are times when we need to really seek him, and honestly, in every situation, we've got to ask him to guide us and lead us, because he's the only one that knows what we need to do, what would be the wise choice in each situation. And so my prayer is that we will all be sensitive to God's Spirit and his word, no matter what our circumstances are. But when we're talking about trust, some wives trust their husbands when their husbands are living in unrepentant sin, and that's not wise. Or if a husband is involved in an active addiction, or is not in his right mind, maybe has a mental health disorder. To trust somebody who is very manic or extremely depressed, or who can't think clearly, who is high or drunk, is probably not wise. We can trust God, but we may need outside help if there are extreme situations in the marriage. But then there are other times when our lack of ability to trust really is more about our trust in God and about our motives than it is about our husbands. Sometimes we actually have good husbands, decent men. I mean, they are all human. They all make mistakes at times, but sometimes we don't trust our husbands when we really could and we really should. And sometimes we trust our own wisdom instead of leaning on the wisdom of God, instead of learning to follow our husbands. That's not good. That's what I would do, especially in the past, is I would think that I always knew best. I personally had a lot of pride, self-righteousness, and I thought that I was the only one that could see what was right, and I didn't trust my husband. And in my case, I could have trusted him. The reason I didn't was because of my own sin and because of my lack of faith in God. So if you are a wife whose husband is living in unrepentant sin and is doing things that are truly not good for your family or for you, you may need some outside godly counsel from your church, or you may even need help from AA or Narcotics Anonymous, or in a severe situation like that, you'll need outside help. But to a lot of you I'm speaking to, there's no major issues with your husband. I mean, yes, he is a human and he is a sinner and he makes mistakes sometimes, but I'd love for you to examine your motives. Am I not trusting my husband because of my own sin? Am I being selfish, or am I being prideful, or do I think that I'm the only one who can handle our family's decisions? Am I really trusting God? What are my motives? Am I acting out of fear? Am I afraid that God can't lead me through my husband? Am I afraid that that if I don't have control, the whole world will fall apart, which is how I used to feel? Am I living in anxiety and worry and fear because I'm trying to hold on to things, I'm trying to make things work out, and I don't trust God? If that's the case, and there really is no actual major danger, then the issue may be more with me than with my husband. And I hope that makes sense. And really, a lot of these issues, you could write a whole book about some of these things. And so it's difficult to address such a huge, important topic in just a few minutes. But ask God to help you see, are there really reasons, valid reasons, why you should not trust your husband because of extremely poor judgment, extreme irresponsibility, addictions, mental problems, infidelity, that kind of thing? Or is the issue more about me wanting control? So I would love for you to pray about that. Ask God to just lay your heart and your life bare before God and let Him examine it. Read His word, pray, seek His heart with all of your heart, and ask Him to show you, is there sin in my life? Is there really a reason I can't trust my husband? Am I actually trusting you, or am I holding things back? And then let's yield ourselves fully to God. And as we do that, I think we'll find that in most cases, our husbands, we can trust them, especially as we trust in God. Ultimately, our trust is in God, not in our husbands. And He can give us the power and mercy and grace to handle situations even when our husbands mess up. And He can give us the power even in really tough situations to know, do I need to separate from my husband? Are my children really safe here? Do I need to get help? So my prayer is especially for those of you who maybe your husband actually is trustworthy, and maybe some of the issues in your marriage are possibly stemming from your lack of faith and trust in your husband. Your faith, your trust in him, but also primarily in God, can be so motivating and inspiring to a man. When a husband sees that his wife trusts him, has faith in him, believes in him, it helps him to soar on wings like eagles. You may want to look up, I have a video about Superman, about how we can bless our husbands and bring out the hero in them. And I also have a post on my blog about that. You can look it up at www.peacefulwife.com and then search on the homepage for Superman. We can't change our husbands. We only have control over ourselves. But we can inspire them, and we can encourage and bless them. We can build them up. We can honor them. And we can, when it's appropriate, which many times it is, we can trust them and trust, even more importantly, in God to lead us through our husbands, which I think is the biggest test of faith for a wife. Do I believe that God is so sovereign that He can lead me through this imperfect man? And it's amazing when we put our trust and faith in God, the things that He can do through our husbands. Even an unbelieving husband, God is able to lead us through them. I pray that God might bring each unbelieving husband to Himself. I pray for His greatest glory in each of your marriages. And I pray for you to draw closer to Him and to trust Christ and to find that abundant life that He has for you, full of peace and joy and purpose, acceptance, love, and having all of your identity filled up with Christ. That is where the greatest power is and the greatest fulfillment in life is. Thanks so much for watching. Have a great day.